Picture this. Right now, tucked beneath your skin and wrapped around your organs, there are billions of tiny storage units. They're called adipocytes, fat cells. And they're not just sitting there doing nothing. They're listening, waiting, responding to signals your body sends every single minute of every day. And here's what almost nobody realizes. The moment you stand up and start walking, a cascade of molecular events begins inside those cells that most doctors never tell you about. Within minutes, not weeks, not months, but minutes, your fat cells start changing their behavior in ways that would seem almost impossible if you saw it under a microscope. Most people think fat cells are just inert blobs that shrink when you burn calories. But the truth? They're more like intelligent warehouses with locks, delivery systems, and a direct hotline to your brain. And when you walk for just 30 minutes, you're not just moving your legs, you're sending a signal that reaches every single one of those billions of cells. Stay with me, because what happens next is rarely talked about. Before we dive into the timeline, let's talk about what fat cells actually are, because understanding this changes everything. Your body contains somewhere between 30 to 40 billion fat cells. Think of them as microscopic balloons filled with triglycerides, stored energy packed away for later use. But here's where it gets fascinating. These aren't dumb storage containers. They're metabolically active endocrine organs. That means they produce hormones and communicate with the rest of your body. Each fat cell is like a highly secured warehouse. Inside, triglycerides are locked away, triple-bonded molecules of fatty acids that can't just float out on their own. To release that energy, your body has to break those bonds through a process called lipolysis, literally the breaking down of lipids. And this process doesn't happen randomly. It requires very specific signals, the right enzymes, and the perfect internal environment. Here's the jaw-dropping part. Your fat cells are not your enemy. They've been protecting you. When you eat more than you need, your fat cells expand and store that excess as triglycerides, preventing those fats from circulating in your bloodstream and damaging your organs. It's your body's way of keeping you safe. But when those cells get too full, when they're stretched beyond capacity, they start sending out distress signals in the form of inflammatory molecules. That's when insulin resistance, cardiovascular issues, and metabolic dysfunction can creep in. Now imagine this. You start walking 30 minutes a day, consistently. What changes isn't just the number on the scale. What changes is the behavior of those 30 billion cells. They become more responsive, more efficient, more willing to let go of what they've been storing. They shift from a state of chronic storage to a state of dynamic balance, storing when needed, releasing when called upon. And the science backs this up. A 2023 study published in the Journal of Health, Population, and Nutrition found that regular walking exercise significantly improved lipid profiles and reduced visceral fat in just 12 weeks. Another study from Physiological Reviews showed that a single bout of moderate exercise stimulates adipose tissue blood flow and fat mobilization, delivering fatty acids to working muscles in real time. This has been happening inside your body without you noticing. But once you understand the timeline, once you see what's unfolding minute by minute, you start to realize your body isn't broken. It's incredibly intelligent. And walking is the language it understands best. Now let's walk through what actually happens inside your fat cells when you lace up your shoes and go for a 30-minute walk. This isn't magic. This is biology. And it's happening in stages. Stage 1. The first 5 minutes, the wake-up call. The moment you start walking, your body doesn't immediately dive into your fat stores. In fact, for the first few minutes, you're running mostly on glucose, sugar that's readily available in your bloodstream and stored as glycogen in your muscles and liver. But something critical is already beginning. Your nervous system is waking up. Your heart rate increases, blood flow accelerates, and your body starts producing adrenaline and noradrenaline, stress hormones, but in this case, good stress. These hormones act like messengers, traveling through your bloodstream until they reach your fat cells. When adrenaline binds to receptors on the surface of a fat cell, it's like turning a key in a lock. It activates an enzyme called hormone-sensitive lipase, HSL. This enzyme is the gatekeeper. Its job? To start breaking apart those tightly bound triglycerides inside the fat cell into free fatty acids and glycerol, molecules small enough to escape into the bloodstream. But here's the thing. This process takes time to ramp up. In those first 5 minutes, your fat cells are receiving the signal, but they're not yet fully releasing their contents. Think of it like starting a cold engine. It needs a few minutes to warm up before it runs smoothly. At the same time, your muscles are gently pulling glucose from your blood. Insulin levels start to drop slightly because your body senses that energy is being used. And that drop in insulin, that's another signal to your fat cells. It's okay to let go now. Stage 2, minutes 5 to 15. The release begins. By the time you've been walking for about 10 minutes, something remarkable is happening. Your fat cells have fully activated lipolysis. Those triglycerides are being broken down, and free fatty acids are slipping out of the cell membrane and into your bloodstream. Now here's where the analogy of a warehouse really makes sense. Imagine your fat cells as storage units with a one-way door that's usually locked. Walking doesn't just unlock the door, it also increases blood flow to your adipose tissue. Think of this like opening delivery routes. The fatty acids need a ride to get where they're going, and that ride is your bloodstream. Studies show that during moderate exercise, blood flow to adipose tissue increases significantly, making it easier for fatty acids to leave the fat cells and travel to your muscles. Your muscles, meanwhile, are starting to shift their fuel preference. In the first few minutes, they were burning mostly glucose. But now, as free fatty acids arrive, your muscle cells begin to take them up and shuttle them into tiny powerhouses called mitochondria. Mitochondria are where the magic happens. They take those fatty acids and, through a process called beta oxidation, convert them into ATP, the energy currency your body runs on. At this point, you're in a beautiful metabolic balance. Glucose oxidation is still happening, but fat oxidation is increasing. Your body is learning that it doesn't need to hoard everything. It's learning to trust that energy is available and movement is consistent. And here's a critical insight from the research. This phase is where most people give up. They walk for 10 minutes, feel fine, and stop. But they miss the most powerful metabolic shift that's about to happen. Stage 3, minutes 15 to 30. Peak fat burning and cellular transformation. Welcome to the sweet spot. By the time you're 15 to 20 minutes into your walk, your body has fully transitioned into fat burning mode. Studies consistently show that fat oxidation peaks during moderate intensity exercise at around 45 to 65% of your VO2 max, which for most people is a brisk walk where you can still talk but feel slightly breathless. At this stage, somewhere between 50 to 60% of the energy you're using is coming directly from fat. Your fat cells are releasing free fatty acids at a steady rate. Your muscles are efficiently burning them. And something else is happening that's often overlooked. Your fat cells are becoming more sensitive to future signals. Think of it this way. Every time you walk, you're training your fat cells to respond. You're increasing the number and efficiency of the enzymes involved in lipolysis. You're improving blood flow to adipose tissue. You're even influencing gene expression inside those cells, making them more metabolically flexible over time. Research published in Biomolecules in 2020 showed that regular, moderate-intensity exercise increases the expression of proteins involved in fat transport and oxidation, things like FAT/CD, 36, and fatty acid-binding proteins. These are the cellular machinery that make fat burning efficient. But here's where it gets even more interesting. During this phase, your body is also producing a molecule called irisin, sometimes called the exercise hormone. Irisin is secreted by your muscles during physical activity, and it travels to your fat tissue, where it does something truly remarkable. It encourages white fat cells, storage fat, to behave more like brown fat cells, fat that burns energy to produce heat. This process is called browning, and it's one of the reasons why consistent walking doesn't just burn fat in the moment. It changes how your fat tissue behaves all the time, even at rest. By the time you hit the 30-minute mark, your glycerol levels in the blood are elevated, your insulin is low, and your body is in a state of active energy flux. You're not just burning calories, you're reprogramming your metabolism. Stage 4, post-walk. The afterburn and long-term adaptation. Here's something most people don't realize. The benefits don't stop when you stop walking. For hours after you finish, your body continues to burn fat at an elevated rate. This is sometimes called the afterburn effect, or more technically, excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, EPOC. Your muscles are restocking glycogen. your fat cells are still mobilizing fatty acids to provide the energy for that restocking. Your mitochondria are more active. And critically, lipolysis remains elevated for up to 24 hours after a single bout of moderate exercise, as demonstrated in multiple studies. But the real transformation happens when you do this consistently. When you walk 30 minutes a day, day after day, your fat cells undergo long-term adaptations. They become less resistant to lipolysis, they store less and release more. Inflammation markers decrease. Insulin sensitivity improves. Your body learns that movement is the norm, not the exception. And here's the beautiful paradox. The more you walk, the smaller your fat cells become. Not because they disappear, but because they release their contents. And smaller, healthier fat cells are metabolically active in all the right ways. They produce beneficial hormones like adiponectin, which protects against insulin resistance and inflammation. Let's ground all of this in the actual research, because this isn't just theory, it's measurable, observable biology. A landmark 2020 review in Biomolecules examined how aerobic exercise regulates fat metabolism. What scientists found was that the fatty acid oxidation rate during exercise depends on 4 key processes. 1. Triglyceride breakdown in fat cells. 2. Fatty acid transport from blood to muscle. 3. Availability and breakdown of intramuscular fats. And 4. Transport of fatty acids into mitochondria. Walking at a moderate pace optimizes all 4 of these processes simultaneously. Another study published in the American Journal of Physiology found that during moderate intensity exercise, like walking, fat oxidation can account for up to 60% of total energy expenditure, far higher than previously thought. And interestingly, this effect is blunted at very high intensities. In other words, sprinting or intense running shifts your body back toward burning glucose, not fat. Walking keeps you in the fat-burning zone. Here's what used to surprise researchers. They once believed that only duration mattered for fat loss, that you had to walk for hours to see benefits. But more recent data shows that consistency trumps duration. A 2025 study in the Journal of Health, Population, and Nutrition found that 12 weeks of regular walking, 30 to 40 minutes per session, significantly reduced visceral fat, improved HDL cholesterol, and lowered inflammatory markers, even without dramatic calorie restriction. And then there's the discovery of irisin and the browning of white fat. This was groundbreaking because it showed that exercise doesn't just burn fat, it changes the type of fat you have. Brown fat is metabolically protective. It burns energy, it regulates body temperature, and walking is one of the most effective, accessible ways to stimulate its development. What about safety, and who should be cautious? Walking is incredibly low risk, but there are still considerations. If you have severe joint issues, uncontrolled heart disease, or are recovering from surgery, you should consult a doctor before starting any exercise program. For people with diabetes, walking can lower blood sugar significantly, sometimes too much, so monitoring is important, especially if you're on medication. But for the vast majority of people, walking 30 minutes a day is not only safe, it's one of the most evidence-backed interventions for metabolic health we have. The key is to listen to your body. Start where you are. Build gradually. Consistency is everything. So let's bring this full circle. What happens to your fat cells when you walk 30 minutes a day? They wake up, they respond, they release, they adapt. They become more metabolically flexible, more efficient, more willing to work with you instead of against you. You're not at war with your body. Your fat cells aren't the enemy. They've been doing exactly what they were designed to do: protect you, store energy, communicate with your organs. But when you introduce consistent movement, when you walk with intention and regularity, you give those cells a new set of instructions. You tell them, it's safe to let go. We're moving now. We don't need to hoard anymore. And over time, your body listens. Fat cells shrink, inflammation decreases, insulin sensitivity improves, mitochondria multiply, blood flow increases, hormones balance. And the best part? This isn't about perfection. It's not about running marathons or crushing yourself in the gym. It's about showing up, putting one foot in front of the other, and trusting that your body is doing exactly what it's designed to do. This is a tool, not magic. It's biology, not a quick fix. And it works because it respects your body instead of fighting it. So here's my question for you. What surprised you most? The biology, the timeline, or the idea that your body is protecting you rather than sabotaging you? Share your thoughts in the comments. Someone reading your experience might need it. And if you want more science-based explanations without hype, subscribe. In the next video, we'll explore what most people get wrong about fasting and fat loss, and why ignoring it can quietly undo everything you've worked for. Now go take that walk. Your 30 billion fat cells are waiting to hear from you.